a lot of people think that it's a, maybe they don't think it's a good thing, but that's how they talk to themselves. There's a bunch of people I've talked to where they're, yeah, I suck. I'm the worst. That was terrible. I'm stupid. I'm this, I'm that. That shouldn't be your feedback for yourself because you're just getting started.
The level of difficult, uncomfortable truth and the level of work ethic that is required to be an Olympic athlete is drastically, drastically, drastically different than someone who wants to get a little bit better.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of Next Level University, where we teach you how to level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode, number 1152. Stop waiting for perfect today for episode number 1153. Happy Saturday. Something you must know when you're choosing your goals. I was on a podcast today, Alan, and this person asked me, do you believe that you must grind your face off every single day? That wasn't the exact question, but it was, is it okay to take a break? Is it okay to take a rest? And I said,
is it okay?
Is it okay? And I laughed. I had a little bit of a giggle. We had a giggle together. And I said, it depends. It depends. It depends on the size of your goals. If you are trying to change the world, every single minute you take off is a minute you're not changing the world. If you're trying to be a little bit better, then it's different. It's different. It doesn't matter as much. The downside of it is not as much. And it goes in proportion, in alignment, we're in trouble, with what we're going to talk about today. So something you must know when choosing your goals, the level of your goals is going to dictate the amount of truth that you receive.
Strong work. Yeah. What a strong opening. You
Pretty
did
good.
Well.
So
as soon as you said Otay, I knew we were in trouble.
Yeah, we're in trouble. This is, I don't know, maybe we probably have like 15 meetings between the two of us under our belt today. You and I talked the other day, and you said, Kev, when you told me your long-term life goal was to donate $100 million, at least $100 million, that gave me all the permission in the world to tell you all the hard truths that I had to. Why? Because the size of my goals dictate the level of truth that I must, not even that I should, that I must receive and then do something with. I started with that story because the level of work you're going to do is directly correlated to the level of your goals. A lot of the things that we are deciding, our standards, our relationships, our health, our fitness, everything is based on the size of the goals. So when you're making goals, do you actually understand that? Or are you making goals that sound really good? Last thing, and then I'll kick it to Alan. Is that $1 in the jar or no?
I think so. Yeah.
$1 in the jar.
Boom.
We have to keep a count somewhere. I was on a podcast breakthrough call earlier. I think it was today. Days are meshing together. And one of the things I say is, how much are you making from your podcast? How much do you want to make from your podcast? The reason I'm asking that is because my goal is to raise people's awareness. So somebody said, I'm making $3,000. I want to make $500,000. And it's like, okay, cool. This is what you're going to have to do to make $500,000 a year with your podcast. Oh. What are you owing?
I thought that was monthly. I was like, who is this exactly?
No.
Who are we coaching that I don't know of?
No,
who's either delusional or
it was in
way
total.
ahead of us? Okay,
it was in total. Yeah. But if that's what you want, the way I coach you is going to be drastically different. Mm-hmm. And I'm also going to say to you, cool, are you willing to do all these things? And you got to let me really, really be very, very honest with you. Very, very honest with you. But your level of truth, your level of standards are going to be directly connected to the size of the goals. We are in trouble.
No, we're good. We're good. This is an awesome episode. I'm so pumped for this one.
Likewise.
So I like to think, we did episodes about this a long, long time ago. Mm. So the analogy here, the metaphor here, is if I want to be a good... have I told the story on the podcast about going to Venice Beach and getting reverse dunked on by someone who played D1 at UConn?
Not in a long time, I don't think.
All right. Spoiler alert. No, I'm joking. All right. So Kevin and I grew up in a small, suburban town in Massachusetts, and I was a solid basketball player in Uxbridge, Massachusetts. In my early 20s, after college, early to mid 20s, drove across the country and lived in LA for 3.5 months. And while I was there, we went to Venice Beach and we played ball. We played basketball. And we did well. We ran the courts like a lot. There's 4 courts. It's right on the beach. It's awesome. It's actually really awesome. And there's one court you just don't play on unless you're like basically considering the NBA, right? And if you can't dunk from like the foul line, don't play there. I'm joking, but it's really quite amazing, some of these athletes, what they can do. So we're playing on the 4th court, which is one that we could run pretty easily at our skill level. Again, this is next level university. The level we were at, we could play. And there was a guy who showed up in sandals, and I was like, "You're gonna play basketball in sandals?" I know we're at the beach, but man, come on, man, right? So he's 5'7", and I know people's heights really well because in basketball, height is really important. So if someone's tall, you have to guard them very differently than if they're short, right? And so I'm like, "Oh, I got this guy. We're gonna be fine. We're gonna be fine." Okay. He's at the 3-point line, and he dribbles left, dribbles right with a crossover, throws the ball over my head, runs past me, and dunks it off the backboard. And I was like, what just happened? That never happens. That's ridiculous. And then I found out later he plays D1 at UConn, which is one of the best colleges in the world with one of the best basketball teams in the world. And I was like, oh, okay. So why am I talking about this? There are levels to every game, no matter what you're doing. And if I wanted to be in the NBA, you need to coach me very differently than if I want to play a little bit of basketball for fun in Uxbridge, Massachusetts. The level of difficult, uncomfortable truth and the level of work ethic that is required to be an Olympic athlete is drastically, drastically, drastically different than someone who wants to get a little bit better. And I don't think people fully think about this often or they contemplate this enough. But one of the first things I do now, and this is a brand new habit, but prior to our speeches in Wisconsin, we're going to ask ourselves, okay, what are the size of the goals of these individuals in the room? Because we're doing 7th and 8th graders, 350 of them. Then we're doing 9th and 10th graders, 350 of them. And then we're doing 11th and 12th graders, 350 of them. Same topic, but it's going to be a little different delivery based on the awareness of the people. Those are very important formative years. And then we're going to give a training to the staff, and that's going to be even more different because obviously the staff are playing at a different level than the students. You're the same person in every room, so you don't lose yourself. You should be authentically you in every room, but the way in which you deliver tough feedback and truth needs to be contextual. It has to be. You know, Kevin's doing a bodybuilding show, hires a coach who's world class. Kevin says he ate some M&Ms on his birthday. He says, dude, I would have canned you as a client if you weren't you. Don't do it again, type of thing. But if you eat some M&Ms and you're not doing a fitness show, enjoy your M&Ms. Who cares, right? But if you are trying to compete and win first place, which is what Kevin was trying to do, you can't eat M&Ms. You know, it's just, I remember I had a fitness coach once who said, you do realize that 2/3 of the weight you gained was fat, right? And I was like, that was hard truth. That next summer, I was 180 pounds with my six-pack back because I took difficult feedback and I wanted to be the greatest natural aesthetic fitness model on the planet. And you know this, Kev, from fitness competitions. I know this from modeling. You want to talk about hard truths. Imagine going in a bathing suit and having someone take photographs of you with all different kinds of lighting in the least flattering situations ever, and then going through 150 of those photos and realizing that only 7 of them look even reasonable compared to what you thought you looked like. You know, the whole camera adds 10 pounds thing? It's genuinely terrible. I can't remember a fitness shoot out of the 41 shoots I did where I didn't have some really difficult feedback, even when I thought I was in shape. It's not fun. It's not supposed to be fun if you want to be world class and a professional. But if not, then you don't need to look at every angle and every little crevice that's off and every little piece of body fat. But if you're on stage in a fitness show, you really do need to be dialed in at that level. And it all depends on the goal. It really does. Everything depends on the goal. Seriously.
Yeah. Even the feedback I give myself, and this is an interesting thing, I've communicated with a lot of people that they beat themselves up and they think that's a good thing. Not actually verbally. They beat themselves up verbally, and they think it's a good thing. It's like, my standards are so high, I'm hard on myself. Why are you smirking over there?
Because I thought of liar,
Liar, liar.
when
I'm
you said
kicking
that.
my own ass. I knew you.
Exactly.
I knew you did.
You knew.
That's how well we know each other.
Yeah.
But Alan says when we get off something, he's like, that was terrible. I suck. That's okay for Alan. Alan has goals of being the best speaker in the world. But if Alan just started podcasting, you shouldn't say that to yourself. It's not good. It's not constructive. A lot of people think that it's a, maybe they don't think it's a good thing, but that's how they talk to themselves. There's a bunch of people I've talked to where they're, yeah, I suck. I'm the worst. That was terrible. I'm stupid. I'm this, I'm that. That shouldn't be your feedback for yourself because you're just getting started. You're just getting started. That's not constructive feedback. And I would argue that for 99.9% of humans, that should never be the feedback you give, or give to yourself. But if you're early in the journey and you're beating yourself up, you have to understand that maybe your goal is to just get one client or whatever it is, create a YouTube channel. You got to be very gentle with the way that you talk to yourself because there's going to be a lot of those. There are going to be a lot of those mistakes early on. And that if you're giving yourself a lot of heavy feedback, if you're giving yourself a lot of not truths, they're not actually real, you're going to be beating yourself up. And that's just a dangerous place to live. And the reason I even bring that up, Alan, is because I know in the very beginning, the small wins I celebrated, aka the small bits of truth I allowed through, were way different than the small wins now. I don't celebrate the fact that
Can you give an example of a truth that you weren't ready to hear that I brought your way? Or more importantly, so Kev told me he wanted to be Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And so I was genuinely giving you advice based on that goal. Which, if that's true, you have no wiggle room. You can't, you have to grind. There's no you can't. He grinds. That's the thing. I went off of, and I had a conversation recently with, was it a team member or a client? I forget. But I actually thought people meant it. Who was it? Oh, I had a team member who was at an event recently who said she met someone who talks about how she wants to be a billionaire. And I was like, I know that the old me would have been like, oh, I would have started reverse engineering it and giving them advice, and it's going to be, And then what I found out recently, this is like within the last year, people are saying things without actually knowing what that means. So I said, does that person know there's only 3,217 billionaires ever to exist on the whole planet right now? She's like, no, absolutely not. I said, would she be saying that if she knew that? And she's like, no, absolutely not. I said, so it's just, people just say stuff? I've never set a goal and not looked up how to do it. You know what I mean? Emilia told me her financial goals, and I was literally reverse engineering it from that moment mathematically. I remember I had a client who said she wanted to have a $50 million home. And I told her, I said, okay, what's the mortgage payment? And she's like, I have no idea. I said, okay, what's the square footage? She's like, I have no idea. I said, you can't just want a $50 million home. You have to go figure out how to actually create the monthly income that can generate that. And so we reverse engineered it. Okay, what's the square footage? Is it on the ocean or not? $50 million home. Okay, what's the mortgage payment? Okay, what's the taxes on that? What's the insurance going to be on that? Okay, how much more money do you need to gross per month in order to figure out how much you actually have to net per month in order for the profit margin to be there, right? I mean, Kevin wants his Mercedes, and I said, okay, we need at least this amount more in gross monthly revenue in order for that to happen.
Too much.
It's a good amount. But in order for that to be sustainable, and I realized I had this moment where I'm like, you literally were just saying that you want a $50 million home. You didn't look all this up and figure out exactly how to do that. This is an interesting, and maybe this isn't the direction you wanted, Kev, but I've come to realize something. Most people, do you remember when we interviewed Michael Burt?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He said something really profound that I've now picked up on that I didn't think was profound at the time because I had no idea how few people understood that. So here's what he said. I remember we asked him, why is it so important for someone to hire a coach? Because he's Coach Michael Burt. And he, despite what you think of Michael Burt, and if you've listened to the interview, he seems like a rock solid coach. If you want results, he seems like a rock solid results coach. And I don't know his character very well or anything like that, so I'm not even going to go down that rabbit hole. But here's my point. I remember we asked that question because we were like, why don't more people have coaches? And we were fairly early in our coaching journey back then. He said, it's so weird how hard it is to sell coaching because here's why you should hire me. I know how to do it and you don't because I've done it. And I now feel that way, genuinely. It's like, why would you hire Kevin as a podcast coach? He knows exactly how to do it and you don't. I know how to create a multi-million-dollar, eventually billion-dollar business. I know how. Genuinely, I'm not trying to showboat. I'm not inflating or deflating. I genuinely know how to do it. And I know how it's been done. And I know how it won't be done. And I know every little bit of what needs to happen in order for that to actually happen. And I just realized that most people say goals, but they have no idea how to actually create those goals. And I now, one of my favorite articles is Quantum Goal Setting. That's all it is. It's essentially, here's your goal. This is actually how you start doing that. And I guess what I want to ask you, Kev, is early in your journey, you did set goals where you had no idea how to actually achieve them.
Yeah, most of them.
Can we go into that and what you would give people who are doing that advice? Because I personally have never set a goal without a pretty high awareness of what that would require and a pretty good understanding of how to actually do it.
Hi everyone, my name is Amanda. I am a dental hygienist and a mom of 2 teenagers. I was first introduced to Kevin and Alan about 3 years ago, so that led me to book a consultation with Alan, and I showed up to that call in the lowest spot that I have been at in my entire life. He is a good human that genuinely wants the best in your life, your future, your love, your relationships, your wealth. And you have the chance to be in the same room or on the same call or have these two in your life in any way, then you are blessed.
Yeah, I don't know. You can really only set a goal based on the level of awareness you have for what it will take to accomplish the goal. An accurate goal. Back then, it was more, there's a difference between a goal and a hope. I was hope it would be nice to be Joe Rogan. It would be nice to have a $50 million house. It would be nice to whatever.
So you never really intended on it?
No, because I didn't know how. That's why, and you and I have talked about this, that's why you have to be very careful with the goals that you set, because if you don't know what it's going to take. Now, obviously, there are people out there that will set a goal and say, I'm going to be a millionaire by 30, and they'll scrap and they'll find a way to get it, and they'll find a mentor and they'll do all these things. There's definitely people out there, but it's not the vast majority of humans. It's not the vast majority of humans, I don't think. I think people set goals that are too big, which actually paralyzes, I don't want to use that word, which actually stops them from doing the things that would be done if they just set a more realistic goal. Don't set a goal to make $1 million this year. Set a goal to make $100,000 more than you did last year. That's a huge goal, especially if you only made $50,000 last year. That's 3x. That's massive. That is a massive goal.
Huge. A
massive goal. And that's the other part of the awareness. I had somebody come to me and say, I want to have 100,000 downloads this year. And I said, it's not going to happen. Not going to happen. Won't happen. Not with the way your life is set up. It won't happen.
I know. Yeah.
It can't happen. It can, but it's not going to. The odds of it happening are so low that I would be doing you a disservice if I told you to do it. It's not going to happen. You know how I know? Because that's the journey we took. We didn't have 100,000 downloads for the first, I think it was 3 years or 4 years in or whatever.
And we have a bunch of clients. So we know, we're not just going off of us. We have a big sample.
I have a lot of data.
Yeah, a lot of data, yeah.
Exactly. You want to do 1 episode a week, you want to do the least amount of work possible, that doesn't equate to 100,000 downloads. Unless you're in the network. There's a lot of ways. You could do it, but it's most likely not going to happen.
You could always pay for them or just blatantly lie like most podcasts.
But that's kind of my thing is I don't want, and this is a fine line because it can come off as negative, but I don't want somebody to set a goal that literally puts them into fear and them not do it. I don't know, how the hell am I going to make $1 million this year? And then you don't do anything. I would rather you say, I'm going to make $1,000 more than I did last year.
What was it like for you? I mean,
Just winging it mostly.
No. But
Close my shade.
so I presuppose that you meant it because I presuppose that everyone means it when they set a goal.
Yeah.
So I gave you uncomfortable truths that were way beyond your actual goal.
Yeah.
Do you think that was detrimental?
Oh, no, I don't know. Probably. Yeah, probably. The one of the hardest pieces of feedback ever, because it's recurring, it never goes away, is basically every minute that I'm not working, we're losing. That's super hard to understand, or not to be aware of. Every moment that I am not working, we are losing. Like, shit, that's heavy. That's heavy. There's so many minutes in the day that I don't want to be working.
That's not common knowledge?
No, because most, myself included, they don't want to work 23 and a half hours a day. Obviously, you don't. You get your sleep and all that.
That's not optimal.
No, it's that.
Well,
so
there's opportunity cost, right? So like every moment you're not
Yes.
investing it intelligently or towards your goal, you're losing your goal. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. But this is the interesting thing. If you're setting a goal to make $5,000 more than you did last year,
that's not true. Yeah, exactly. Then all of a sudden you don't need
not a lot has to change.
Yeah, almost nothing.
Right? And it's so I want that to be the empowering takeaway from this episode. If you want to make $50,000 more than you did last year, and you made $100,000 last year, like that's really quite doable, believe it or not.
Oh yeah, 100%.
If you want to go from, what did I see? Zero, it was some stupid ad, from 0 to 7 figures in 6 months. Like you're not going to go from $0 to $1 million in 6 months. Again, slap it, results not typical, sticker on it.
Took us 33 years, but yeah, 6 months,
right,
you got it. Yeah,
we figured out how to do it in this amount of time. We really feel like we have that dialed in. That's really what I want people to think from this episode is, honestly, a lot of your goals won't be super hard if you are dialed in. If you're dialed in and you're tracking your habits and you're making sure you're hitting the right number and you're doing the right things every day, it won't be too bad depending on the size of the goal. But you also have to make sure you're getting the truth in accordance to the level of the goal that you set. The reason Alan and I are very hard on ourselves and each other is because there is very little wiggle room. There is very little wiggle room for us. I would say you probably more than I, because I think your time is more valuable than mine at this rate, at this current juncture, which I'm okay with. I'm all right with that. Doesn't hurt me at all. I don't feel any type of way about that.
Appreciate you.
I do think that's the truth. I do believe Alan has to be more on point than I do. I like it. You know, it takes a little pressure off the kid, but I'm not far behind. But what's a good example? If we said we want to have a financially free life and we want the podcast to grow, we wouldn't have to change anything. Because it's just going to keep growing the way it is, but it's going to keep growing because that's how it's been set up.
Compound effect, yeah.
But I just don't want you to beat
weird thing
yourself
is,
up.
though, is that wouldn't be the case if we weren't shooting higher. That's the problem.
I know, that's the paradox. But to
that's
your
the
original point, I was not setting goals. I was just saying it would be nice. It would be nice. I remember, this is interesting. I remember I was still living in New Hampshire by myself. So the podcast was not even a year old. And I remember I sent a picture of a Corvette to my mom. It was like the new Corvette. It was all done up. And she's like, "You're not gonna be able to get that. It's only like $70,000. And I remember when she said that, I was like, "Screw that. I gotta get something more expensive then." I said, "Never mind. I'm gonna get this." And I don't remember what it was. I think it might have been the Mercedes, but it was that thing of I didn't know how I was gonna do it. I didn't know how to get a $70,000
That is the first
car.
step. And that's why people do this, is because that is the first step. Because on some level, one of the reasons why you put up with me for so long, for lack of better phrasing, is because you knew on some level that you needed to learn from me in order to get to your goals. So we have that manifestation equation. It's a 10-step wheel. And we did a monthly meetup on it. One of the most powerful monthly meetups we've ever done. But step one is to set your intention.
Yeah, it's fair.
Which is to set like a big, grandiose goal. But after that, there's 9 other steps that are required.
But what's the difference between an intention and a goal? I think even your phrasing, like intention means I intend on. A goal isn't necessarily I intend on. It's this is the result I would like. There's a difference between I would like and I intend, I think. You know what I mean?
I think that's why we use intention is because...
Yeah, I didn't intend on it. It would be nice. Remember, I was 16 years old saying I was going to drive around with my friends in a Winnebago and we were going to be multimillionaires. Like,
just real quick, why did you say that if you didn't
because it
intend
would
on
be nice, son.
That doesn't land for me. No, seriously though, think about it. Like, why do you think people actually say things that they don't intend on? Does it feel good to say or something?
Because at that time in my life, if I only said what I intended on, my future would have been very bland and bleak. Yeah, I think that's your imagination. That's your imagination.
Well, I want to encourage people to use their imagination.
Same.
That's why this is so challenging, is because on some level it's good that you did that. Because if you didn't say that outlandish goal, and I actually believed that you wanted to do that, I wouldn't have partnered with you.
I know,
seriously.
but that's a very specific thing. Like you and I partnering up is just the fact that we went to the same school, we grew up in the same town, we had bowl cuts together, that's rare.
And you had frosted tips.
And I had frosted tips, and I was jacked, and you were like, wow, I need to get, I value this man because he's jacked.
That's true.
There is a lot of stuff there where, Alan, if I didn't meet you, that wouldn't have served me, necessarily. It wouldn't have served me. That's what I would say.
Well, it wouldn't have served you?
No, I mean, I would have made $100,000, and then I don't know what would have happened after that. That was my intention. I intended on making $100,000 that year. That's why I did. I grinded
that you actually believed you could?
Yeah, I was looking at the numbers. But I had the information in front of me. X amount of hours and X amount of dollars. It's definitely doable. If I pick up this job,
so that
if I
one
do
you
this.
actually believed you'd do. Whereas
I knew
the
it was
Joe
possible.
Rogan thing, you said it would be nice.
I knew it was possible, and I had an understanding and awareness of how to do it.
Okay, cool.
But not Joe Rogan. I had no clue.
You said something in this episode that I want to make sure lands for our listeners. Yeah, you said something along the lines of, if you want to be a little more successful than you are right now, in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, just improve a little bit.
Yeah.
And focus on that. If you want to really, really maximize your potential and be an Olympic athlete, quote unquote, in this metaphor, you need to hire a coach immediately who's leagues ahead of you.
Yeah.
I was just coaching a business earlier. They're not trying to start a business and do well. They're trying to kill it, right? They really want to change the world too. And the way I coach them changes when they tell me that stuff. It's like, you guys have no wiggle room. You can't you need me. You need this help. You can't wing it and hope it works out. There's none of that here. But they're going for human optimization Olympic athlete version. Yeah. And it's very important, for the listeners to check in. What is my real goal? What is the lifestyle I really want? Am I saying these things because I think I'm supposed to say them and because they feel good, or because they're actually serving me? And you don't need to want to be a billionaire or a millionaire or any of that. I think millionaire is probably solid for everyone to shoot for. Eventually, being a millionaire by 60 is not that challenging. Honestly, you just need a little bit of financial acumen and you need to save a little more, make a little more
Time.
And you need time, right? Being a millionaire by 20 is ridiculously big goal. Being a millionaire by 60, that's not even that hard. Do you see? But I guess not no one, but I understand the math of it.
Yeah,
I always said,
math. A lot of it's
I said
math.
6 figures in my 20s, 7 figures in my 30s, 8 figures in my 40s, 9 figures in my 40s and 60s, 50s and 60s. And then after that, Emilia's like, well, what about after that? And I was like, I didn't really think about it. I figured that would do it, which now it's different with her. But there's a reason why it's set up that way. There's no way you're going to be a billionaire in your 20s, unless you're Mark Zuckerberg, which, you know what I mean? That's just 1 in a billion. So it's very important. Just figure out, what is your goal? What is the level of work you're willing to do to require it? And I will tell you this, despite what our industry likes to tell people, if you want to be Oprah Winfrey, you're going to work for the next 40 years every day. There's no version of that not being the case, right? If you don't, then just just figure out the level you need to play at. And that's why it's next level you. It's whatever your next level is. Next level you, not next level Kevin and Alan, not next level Oprah Winfrey, next level you.
Yeah, it's such it's a challenging thing. Goal setting is way deeper than I think a lot of people give it credit for.
Definitely.
There's a lot of thought that has to go into it. What do you want your lifestyle to look like? Real quick. I remember I've told this many times, like behind the scenes. I tell this a lot on other podcasts, but I had a client one time who said, I said, "What do you want to do?" And this person said, I want to be an orthodontist. I want to open up an orthodontist clinic. And I said, "Do you have any experience with that?" And this person said, "No." And I said, "How long is that?" And he said, "I think it's like 6 to 8 years of school." And I was like, all right, whatever. "What do you value in life?" And he said, "Movement/freedom. I want to be able to go wherever I want, whenever I want. I don't want to be glued to anywhere specific." I said, "Do you see how going to school for the next 6 years, 8 years, and then opening a practice that you have to be at every single day for however many years to get it running is in direct misalignment with movement/freedom?" And this person said, "Yep." And then he changed completely, and now he does real estate. That was based on killing
it in real estate. Yeah.
That was based on the fact that from my awareness of what I know, that goal is not aligned with your lifestyle that you want to accomplish that goal. It's probably not going to work. It's not going to be worth it. Will it be worth it for you? Maybe not. So, yeah, if you need help with setting goals, reach out. Just reach out.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll help as much as we can. All right. Next Level Nation. We have a Facebook group. It's private. You can meet other like-minded people. It's called Next Level Nation. If you hear me every episode and you're sick of me talking about it, check it out.
Everyone's like, that's me. That's me.
Yeah. Check it out.
I already mentioned it. We have digital assets and frameworks that we create that truly are life-changing. We have something called the manifestation equation, which is a 10-step formula. A lot of people say manifestation. Think good thoughts, good things will happen. It's way more than that. This might as well be called the ability, the 10-step process that's an exact formula that is required to achieve whatever goal you set. And it'll be a link in the show notes. Check it out. It's called the Manifestation Equation, and you can download it on Google Drive for free. And if you have any questions, just reach out. That manifestation equation is essentially what I'm doing in my coaching. Is a client comes to me. I'm actually about to be on the phone in 5 minutes with a new client. I'm super pumped for this. I'm going to figure out what is she going for, really, not just saying, and then what parts of this equation are not yet dialed in, and how do we tweak them to help them dial them in. So if you're curious as to that, download that, check it out, reach out if you need help setting goals.
Next Level Nation tomorrow for episode number 1154, Dealing with Judgment Sucks. I have a nice little story about me dealing with judgment last week, which kind of sucked, but it sucks less than it used to. As always, we love you, appreciate you, grateful for each and every one of you. And at NLU, we do not have fans, we have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Please reach out.